Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Modern Living with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester. Today, we are talking about the aging addict. Yes, we are talking about substance abuse in our elderly. Our music sponsor for this show is Louis Knudsen. That's Louis Knudsen. He can be found on Facebook at Louis Knudsen Music. Check out louisknudsen.bandcamp.com. The song that we're listening to today is The Branch and the Vine. The Branch and the Vine. Well, recent census data has estimated that about 35 million people in the United States are over the age of 65. That's right, 35 million are over the age of 65. And substance abuse among them, those 60 and older, they all include misuse of prescription drugs. Certainly, that means that is affecting more than 17% of our population. Well, estimates say that by the year 2020, the number of older adults with substance abuse will be more than doubled. More than doubled. So, if you're putting that into context, take your age, project it out 4 years. Will you be one of these elders that's included in that listing? If you're not, be happy. But if you are, or if you know someone who is, then that means that we really, really need to take heed to the wake-up call. So, what are some things that we can do, or what are some concepts, or even perhaps some misconceptions that are out there? And one is that the society opinion is that there's less shame and guilt associated with substance abuse. Now, that's true for some people. It is not true for others. They still feel that if you are needing to go to rehab, that there's, a particular mindset associated with that. And other people feel that, oh, great, you finally know that you're an addict, something that we perhaps have known for quite some time, but you're going to get some help. We're really, really happy for you for doing that. Another is that it's not worth the medical cost to deal with elder substance abuse. Meaning, listen, grandma's happy when she takes her pills. In fact, when she takes that little pink one or purple one or yellow one or those 2 little white ones, she's fired up and, as the joke goes, puts her in the Christmas spirit. Well, for many people, they just kind of go along with that and don't realize that there may be something there, or they don't ask if grandmother or grandfather is even taking the medication correctly. And sometimes that has a really big deal, that if they took it correctly, they wouldn't necessarily be in the Christmas spirit, but at least in a Thanksgiving mood, let's say. So we need to be aware of what's going on with our senior members and make sure that they're doing everything correctly. So what are some things that you should know? Well, as you age, your sensitivity to alcohol increases and your tolerance decreases. Alcohol takes longer to metabolize in our elders, and due to physical makeup, older women are more vulnerable to the negative effects of alcohol. Older people are also more likely to suffer from one or more chronic illnesses. And as the years go by, they may suffer from even more than just that one. With that being said, that means that they are taking a lot of prescription drugs as well as even some over-the-counter remedies. Now, when you add alcohol to many of our prescription medications, the alcohol can have a very, very dangerous effect with that medication in your system. Now, alcohol can have a dangerous effect on its own to many of our elderlies and even some of our young people, but especially if you're mixing it with some of these medications. For example, if you are taking benzodiazepines, if you're taking any type of sedative, if you're on any type of pain medication, if you're taking sleeping pills, even prescription or over the counter, or if you're taking any anti-seizure or antipsychotic medications, you really, really need to be aware of the cocktails that you're allowing yourself to have throughout the day, nonetheless throughout the month. So if you think about that, you may be setting yourself up for a very dangerous mix. Well, we need to take a very short break. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us for the Aging Addict, looking at substance abuse and our seniors. So what are some symptoms and warning signs of alcohol or substance abuse in our seniors? Well, your MD, first of all, may not even be aware that you're having a problem with alcohol or with substance abuse unless someone else brings it to their attention. And you may be saying, well, why is this? Many times the symptoms of substance abuse in an elder also mistakenly mimic the symptoms of another condition that may include depression, anxiety, your memory loss, or even a physical disability. Other times, they will mistakenly say that your loved one may even have Alzheimer's or some form of dementia. So if you are responsible or you think that you would like to get involved in the care of one of your elderly loved ones, please be sure to write down any symptoms that you think that they may be having, and be sure to mention that to their MD or their healthcare practitioner that they are going to see. Now, what are some very first onset signs that we should look out for? Dizziness, changes in their blood pressure, if they have anemia, if they are becoming more fatigued or weakened throughout their day or throughout their activities, increased confusion or even mental impairment. And last but not least, if they fall. Now, many times, like we said, the MD may mistake it for other signs, so be sure that you really kind of jar them a little and say, I'm really, really concerned about this. And I don't think that it's that. Is there any possibility that it could be this? And then that will help them understand that you're really concerned and that there may be some other things that you have seen that maybe you're not mentioning right now, because you also don't want to put that loved one on blast, I think, as the kids say. You really don't want to seem like you're attacking your loved one, but at the same time, you definitely want for that MD, that medical practitioner, to understand that something is going on. So what are some risk factors? When we look at the conditions in which our elderly are living, there may be some bells and whistles that are going off. Now, it could be one thing, it could be numerous things, but there's nothing like that intuition as well. So if any of these sound familiar to you, definitely sit down a later time in the day and really decide if you want to say something. If your family member already knows that there's a predisposition for alcoholism or substance abuse, that is the number one sign. That is the biggest red flag. If you happen to be of the male gender, unfortunately, it is tilted more in your direction that you may be suffering from substance abuse and be elderly. If you live alone, now this isn't just you live by yourself, this is you live alone, almost more towards the lonelier end of things. If you live by yourself and you're self-sufficient, as it should be. But if you live alone and you are on heavy medications and the only person that really comes to see you is your CNA or your nursing person that comes by, we're talking about that type of living alone. If you've had substance abuse earlier in your life, if you notice that you are in habitual chronic pain, if you are suffering from any type of sleep problems, or if you have some lifestyle stresses. This could mean anything from you had to retire and you did not want to, or that you are retired, but you're having financial difficulties. Now, if you are one of those seniors that are quote unquote on a budget, this would include you. It doesn't necessarily have to, but it does include you. If you are a senior that is still living within your means and you're not worrying about paying your bills, or you're not worrying about making it from day to day, then this does not necessarily apply to you. But if you ever find yourself in the position where your finances have dropped drastically, or you are living payment to payment and you're a senior, then that's a really big red flag as well. If you've been in the hospital for an extended stay, and especially if you're living in a long-term care facility, if you are living in senior living, then it doesn't necessarily mean that you may be that you may suffer from substance abuse. But if you are living in senior living and there are some other situations going on with you, then you very well, you keep walking more towards the potential to suffer from substance abuse. If you are taking over-the-counter mood enhancers, meaning that you have come up with your own concoction. If I drink this energy drink, take 6 Tylenol, and then, eat Jell-O. If you're doing that because you know that that's going to give you that hype that you need, then that too is another red sign. And last but not least, if you have had a long-term tobacco habit, if you've been smoking since you were 6 years old, I don't believe that that's the case. But if you've been smoking since you were 10, 12, 13 years old and you are now 70, that too could potentially put you in the line for substance abuse. So please, 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 if any of these things sound familiar to you, please take a moment and self-assess. And that is just to take a really good hard look at ourselves and say, could this be me? Well, we're going to take another very short break. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Modern Living with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester. I just want to mention briefly again, we are on our new broadcasting system. Time frame. We are broadcasting on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific time. That would be 6 p.m. on the East Coast. And hello, and thank you for joining me, all of my East Coast people. Thank you so much. If you are in our heartland, you keep us going. Thank you. If you are on Mountain Time, hello, neighbor. And if you are out here next to the Great Pacific Ocean, how are you? And thank you again for joining us. So we've gone over signs, symptoms, and unfortunately, things that you need to be aware of with your elderly person. If you notice that your mom, your dad, your grandmother just can't seem to kind of shake the blues, they don't really want to do too much, and they're not happy unless they're taking their cocktail, then perhaps your loved one is suffering from substance abuse. Please make sure that you mention this to their healthcare practitioner, that some things are kind of bothering you, and what do they believe that it is. If they can reassure you that they're fine, that's great. But like I said, in the medical world, many times 3 symptoms could be 5 different things, and you just want to make sure you're on top of it. So what are some scriptures that I want to leave you with this time? I want you to be reminded of Psalm 71:9, and that is, do not cast me off in the time of old age, forsake me not when my strength is spent. And Isaiah 46:4, even to your old age I am here, and to gray hairs I will carry you. I have made you, and I will bear. I will carry, and I will save you. So that is a really, really great reminder that the Lord our God has not forsaken us, and that even in our elder years, He is still with us, loves us, and cares for us. Thank you again for joining us for another episode of Modern Living with Dr. Angela. We hope to see you here next time. Have a great, great afternoon, and we are going to leave you with more